For those of you gathering in your homes today with family and friends and loved ones to enjoy the football game, I hope everyone has an absolutely wonderful time and that, of course, everyone drinks responsibly. For those of you who are choosing to go out to an establishment and enjoy the game there, please take advantage of any and all rideshare services that are available. There's no reason this day has to end in tragedy or the destruction of your life. Now, I'm sure there's folks out there saying, Florida Maquis, hold on a minute. Don't tell me you're watching the Super Bowl. Don't you know what goes on there? I mean, didn't you see it a couple of years ago with J-Lo and with Shakira and Really? You see, it's kind of funny to me that people see images of J-Lo and Shakira and they get their nose all bent out of shape. Not bad, if you ask me, for 52 and 45. See, the first place they go is, didn't you read the Bible and see what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? I'm like, well, let's read, shall we? Just briefly here. What exactly did happen to Sodom and Gomorrah and why it happened? For those of you who are unaware of the story, I'll give you a brief synopsis. This city was labeled by God as exceedingly wicked and that he was going to destroy it. And he sent two angels to a man named Lot. Lot was deemed to be a righteous man. And he said, Lot, take your wife, take your two daughters, and leave. And don't look back. I'm going to destroy the city. And when the two visitors were there was a group that gathered around the house, and it's alleged that they wanted to take these two visitors out and biblically, quote unquote, know them, so to speak. And of course that didn't happen, but Lot offered his two daughters instead, which is somewhat questionable if you ask me. On their way out of town, Lot's wife turned back, turned into a pillar of salt. This is the story. Later in Jude, in the Bible, it says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Strange thing to me that they need to use the word strange. Why wouldn't it just say, and going after flesh? Because, as we know, all lust is bad, right? See, people have made the allegation that it was about homosexuality. It's where the term sodomy comes from. But isn't it just as bad to go around with women as much as men, to be heterosexually loose as homosexual? I mean, that's the story, right? But when we read through here and we use a concordance to find out what this word strange means, it has some very strange translations. It's the same word used in 2 Peter 2:10, Romans 1:27, Leviticus 18 and 22, and Leviticus 18 and 23. And in this particular case, it really means more necrophilia than it does homosexuality. Now, in those other scriptures, it does refer to this as men leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another. This is, of course, the Romans chapter. Leviticus, you shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is abomination. They talk about bestiality here. And here they talk about they walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness. Well, why wouldn't they just say in the lust? Why wouldn't they just say in lust? If all lust is bad, why do they have to put a qualifier on it? You see, there's some glaring omissions in the story that men seeking after the natural course of relations with a woman, nowhere in the Bible does it say that's bad unless it's a married woman and she's betrothed to another and you're attempting to interfere in a relationship. That's sin. But a man looking at a woman and having those types of what the Bible describes as natural feelings, nothing sinful about it whatsoever. And this is how babies get made, by the way. And I have even more proof for this and more questions that I don't think some Christians can answer. We talked about these 4 examples in the Bible: Samson, Ahab, David, and Solomon. Well, Samson was punished because he cut his hair, disobeyed God. Not one word was said about his relations with Delilah. Ahab, false gods. With Jezebel, not about his multiple wives or concubines. Same thing with Solomon, same thing with David. King David devised a wicked scheme to have this woman's husband killed, his friend, to take her, for his wife. That was the sinful part. The man had multiple wives already. Solomon, with the Queen of Sheba, was worshiping their gods. None of these stories have any reference to the natural relations between a man and a woman. And in that story, by the way, of Lot, the man described as the one righteous one to be saved out of the entire city, right after the story of that, it describes his daughters when they're living in a cave, getting the man drunk because they each want to lie with him so that they can bear children. Now, answer me this, honestly. How did the girls know that it would only take a little bit of wine to get their father to do what's necessary to make babies with them? And how would you describe that as a righteous man? Would not this be a man given to strong drink and lust? And how could you describe this man as righteous and worthy of saving? Tough question, ain't it? Even tougher question. Modern context. I've used this image to talk about the baby boomer generation. The older folks now, a lot of them live in Florida. Very wise, very intelligent people. You can learn a lot from them. If you're going to invest in anything, invest in time with those that are older than you, because you can learn a lot. I'm very blessed. I'm in my 50s, but there's still a lot of people in Florida that are way older than me, even way older than my parents. But there's an unspoken of subtext to this. You see, these were the babies of the baby boom. Now, newsflash. You don't get this many babies from sticking 2 straws in a milkshake and holding hands and listening to the jukebox. That ain't where babies come from. But Florida Marquis, they came home and got married. Really, they came home and got married. You see, back then, and nurses out there, and I know I have a bunch of them, help me out here. At this time, you did not get a due date. At this time, in this era, when you were asked, when are you due? A month was given, meaning there was leeway as to when the baby was actually conceived. And let's not talk about the unromantic, untold story of the great U.S. divorce spree of 1946. You see, they came home from the war, this greatest generation, and they started making tons of babies. And in 1946, a year later, there was a 43% divorce rate. 43%. You can find this story on Quartz and on Facebook. You see, the legacy of their parents was this. What's coming, and it's related to this, is a choice between 2 worlds we want to live in. And it's going to be one or it's going to be the other. See, if you want to live in a world where you're on a beach somewhere and some authorities can come walk up, make you stand up, and then measure you to make sure you're decent in public. If you don't live in that world, you're one group of people. If you don't, you're another group of people. Are you the group of people that are going to stand up, put your right hand up, hand on a Bible, and say, I swear, government, I pay no more than top prices you set for us, and I don't accept any goods that you deem to be rationed without giving up the ration stamps you've given me and you think I deserve. And if anybody else tries to make an extra buck, make profit, more so than what you've deemed to be good, we're going to help stamp that out and turn those people in and have them jailed. Oh, and by the way, real quick, I thought capitalism was the way to go. Just real quick here, I get a lot of crap from people saying I'm some evil, terrible, horrible socialist. I thought capitalism was the way to go. And believe me, you want to sell something? You want to sell something? 52-year-old woman looking like this, swinging around on a pole, could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. That should be the direction of perfection, right? See, Florida is a beautiful place. And there's a reason people come here. There's a lot to see. But we have liberty. That's the reality. We have liberty. And sometimes liberty makes people uncomfortable. Good. That's the goal. That's the idea of liberty. It's not liberty if nobody's a little uncomfortable. This is something that people can't really jive in their mind. This idea of what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah and rooting for God to destroy all of those people. Let me ask you a question. Another difficult question. How did the people of Sodom and Gomorrah know what right and wrong was? Or righteousness versus unrighteousness was? Oh, it's real simple, Maki. You just turn the Bible to those chapters you just showed. There was no Bible at this time. There was no Sermon on the Mount. There was no great command, love one another. There was no Acts 2:38 baptism, repentance, forgiveness, grace. Even if I could magically jump in a time machine and take it back and start standing on a street corner in Sodom and start preaching it, they wouldn't understand a word out of my mouth. Why? They don't know my language. Most of them couldn't read or write at this time. Most of the world couldn't read or write. So riddle me this, how does one know what is right and what is wrong without a list being provided? You see, that's the standard we use in today's world, don't we? We consult the Bible. What is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what should be, what shouldn't be. But that's only been around what we know to be the Bible for 400 or 500 years. Entire city wiped off the face of the earth. No forgiveness, no grace, no mercy, no long suffering, no compassion. See, Abraham even pleaded with God, if you can find 50, if you can find 40, if you can find 30, if you can find even 20 righteous men, will you not destroy the city? And yet the city was destroyed. And this man, for the effect of a few jugs of wine, impregnated both of his daughters, leading to the Moabites and the Ammonites. Would you describe that as righteous? So before folks go judging, and they go praying for God's wrath to rain down on things, maybe actually read the Bible and use a concordance and find out what those words mean. And ask why one would be so much worse than the other if this is really the case. And those you think are so much better than everyone else. World War I, World War II, 43% divorce rates. See, divorce in the Bible, way worse. Way, way, way worse. Wasn't even provided for. Yet this greatest generation, 43%. Stories you don't know about. Anyway, enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy the game. Be safe. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. And we will see you guys next time. Take care.